I know. It doesn't matter, I'm from the trenches. I'm built like this. The all doubted me said I couldn't do it. The all said I couldn't do it. Look at me now. 11 pound for pound. Headshot, dead. That's it.
Alright guys, we are back with our full card picks and predictions for Dern versus Jan. If you want to go ahead and skip to those picks, go ahead now. But we're going to recap Sandhagen versus Song and a little bit of the bets here, so let's get into it. This is our third straight winning week, and that's for 13.31 units in 3 weeks. This week we went positive for 2.36 to end that card, and let's get into the straight bets here. So first bet was in Joaquim. He could have easily won this one. You know, I don't think the fight should have been able to continue after that cut, but at the same time, it probably was the right decision because RoboCop came out and had the crazy upset, so it ended up okay for them, but shitty for me. Took that one down a unit. I was extremely confident in Basharat, and after that first round, I knew that Gravely would have a hard time exactly keeping up with him, and he really couldn't get his wrestling going after round one. Basharat even had nice wizards to flip him over with. And then next was Bozer. It's just, man, we already bet on Bozer, and we saw on the scales he came in at 230, which is a scare, because Nascimento weighed like 40 pounds more than him, probably during fight night, which is just bad for everybody. Sweated that bet, and then it ended up being really bad. He got laid on. Also didn't show the best fight IQ. Next one, Feely got Bill Algeo. I thought Feely won that round 3. He had a good point, just like when you're on the back, you're in a more threatening position than throwing little kind of baby punches back at Feely, so I thought he did more. I liked that decision. I liked his fight. Good comeback fight for him. Next, we had in the parlays Zellhuber and Sabatini together. Turns out Zellhuber, he is 23, but not the best prospect. Really struggled with the speed of Trey Ogden. Trey Ogden showed good striking as well. I think also, just like I said in the predictions, he gets away with a lot because he's really tall. And he didn't use his range quite as well as he should have in this fight to keep that jab pumped, and Trey Ogden unable to touch him. But anyway, Sabatini got finished real fast. I think that was just more unlucky than anything. Then the big parlay hit. Like I said, I love this two pick parlay structure. We got 2 parlays at plus money. You go positive if one hits, if one loses. So this one, we had Pfeiffer, Sandhagen, and Giles together. Pfeiffer and Giles were the easiest wins. Costa didn't do anything. Emendowski was meant to lose that fight. Sandhagen obviously had some close moments. I had him up 3 rounds to 1. I had him losing round, I think 1, and then 1 or 2. I can't remember exactly. It's been a week. But he got the win after that cut. Good performance there. I thought he would win round 5 anyway, but nice little profit in that area. Van Camp, not showing good fight IQ. I was unwilling to put a full unit behind this guy because you don't know what they're going to come out with when they got knocked out before. They're still a low level. I just went sub. I thought he would try to take him down to the ground with his size advantage. Didn't really play into that. And he just took a little bit away from us, but nothing crazy. And then also had Sandhagen going over 3.5. That one was pretty easy, other than the cut was a little scary. And then Feely and Algeo going the distance. Both those guys go the distance a lot. And then my chick parlay for over under rounds hit with Agapova and Robertson going under 2.5. It was high pace from the beginning. And then the one voided with Aspen Ladd. And then Denise Gomez and Luma went over 2.5, and that one wasn't too hard to hit as well. So let's good profit this week. Hopefully we can extend it to 4 weeks in a row. I mean, all these 3 weeks have been good wins. I mean, they're all multiple unit wins, so it's good climbing to the top here. So let's get into these picks for the next card. Okay, for the supposed first fight of the night, we have Jessica Penne versus Tabatha Ricci. I'll let you make the pick.
Yeah, I'm going with my future wife, Tabatha Ricci here. She's 27 years old, a little bit older than me. But, she'll be the lot younger girl as Penne's 39, coming up on 40. And she should be able to get this fight down to the mat and get it. I like a decision win here for Ricci.
So you're trying to be the daddy shark dude?
Pretty much, yeah.
So, I agree with Ricci. Penne looked like a step behind in her last fight. She ate a million lead kicks from Emily Ducote. Didn't switch stances. Really struggled to get a takedown. And I think Ricci's going to have the takedown advantage here.
The only concern I have here is that Ricci has only a 62-inch reach and Penne has a 67-inch reach, and Ricci's 4 inches shorter. But in her last fight, that didn't really seem to bother her, and Penne didn't really use her reach at all in her last fight either.
Yeah, and Ricci's fought in 125 before, so this is at strawweight 115. So, I think she'll still be fine. She's fast twitch muscles and that type of person. Against Polyana Viana, she kind of just stayed in her guard the whole fight. In hindsight, a win over Maria Oliveira actually looks kind of good. Mannion Fro she lost to, but actually showed some good moments even there. I think that she could get this done on the feet or on the ground. I'd actually kind of think she'd keep this one on the feet, maybe just because she'll have more advantages than Penne, but also the ground. I think she has the edge, so decision.
Yeah, I like her. Yeah, decision win. Also, Penny's on short notice here. I think this was scheduled like a month ago for her, if that.
Right. So, Tabatha Ricci by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Aleksei Oleinik versus Ilir Latifi. Aleksei Oleinik just got his 60th win. Continues to do crazy submissions and crazy comeback wins. And Latifi, on the other hand, kind of been inactive and hasn't had the greatest performances in the octagon overall, at least in my opinion. So I'll let you say the pick here.
Yep, we are going with Aleksei Oleinik by submission here.
Yeah, the scare in this one is that Latifi's wrestling will be able to get away from the submissions, but in my opinion, Latifi doesn't do anything on the ground besides just lay on people, and I don't want to pick a fighter who tries to coast to decisions. He hasn't had a knockout for a while. His last finish, I think, was OSP. Other than that, I mean, he just kind of just goes to decision with fighters and really hasn't been too active.
Yeah, he hasn't fought a submission guy like Aleksei Oleinik.
True. And he's a pretty short guy for the division. He's a short, dense dude. Oleinik's got like crazy long arms, which like helps his submission game. Obviously Jared Vanderaa being his last win, and then Oleinik had to face some wrestlers. Sergey Spivak's gonna be a hard fighter to submit. Even had him in some bad positions at times. And yeah, he's just had some unfavorable matchups along the way. Do you see a round for the submission?
I'll go round one.
That's what I think as well. I think Latifi typically tries to go to the ground. We'll see if he tries to go to the ground here against a submission artist, but I don't see the harm in picking Oleinik here. So Oleinik by sub, round one. Okay, for the next fight of the night, we have Maxim Grishin versus Philipe Lins. Maxim Grishin, good striker in the UFC. Manages distance really well. Good teep kicks, good jabs, good straight punches. and I would say very defensively disciplined and offensively disciplined. Doesn't rush in, has good size, and I think I'm going to have to pick him in this matchup. Philipe Lins is his second fight at light heavyweight here in the UFC. Just beat Marcin Prekno, which we picked him in that fight, but it was kind of a 50-50. We'll just take the dog here. In that fight, from what I remember, it was mostly just him dealing a little bit harder strikes to Prekno. Prekno's really not the greatest light heavyweight, and he just had the stronger punches, better left hand coming in at him. And he didn't really have a great run at heavyweight. Got knocked out by Tanner Boser. Lost to Andrei Arlovsky, and in my opinion, Maxim Grishin's going to be a lot better than Andrei Arlovsky here. He's going to have a lot more speed, obviously, in this division. But Philipe Lins here is a really big light heavyweight, and that could be a slight scare for Grishin because he's used to facing sometimes smaller opponents. But last win versus William Knight was much heavier than him in that fight, but showed good discipline, touched him up for 3 rounds, had some big strikes on him. Knight took him down only once or twice, didn't really get any damage off the takedowns. Getting beaten by Dustin Jacoby, that's no shame in that. It's a really great kickboxer. Another good UFC win. He lost to Marcin Tybura up at heavyweight with about a 40-pound weight disadvantage. Actually showed good moments even in that fight with having such a big disadvantage. I'm going to have to pick Grishin here just by decision. I think Lins will make it to a decision. He fights pretty slow. Grishin doesn't really risk it all for a finish. I think that we're going to see 2 older guys trying to just go in there and fight a slower fight. Nothing too exciting here. But I do expect Grishin to get the job done. I would say 30-27. And hell, there could even be a 10-8 in there. But yeah, Maxim Grishin by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Joaquim Silva versus Jesse Ronson. This is another not very great matchup. Both guys haven't had the best runs here in the UFC. Ronson, I guess, has been okay, but coming off his last performance against Rafa Garcia, looked a step behind in the whole fight. Really looked slow. Didn't really get his hands going at all on Ronson, or on Garcia. Garcia took him down extremely easily. Got the rear naked choke really with no problem. Actually choked out Nicholas Dalby 2 years ago, which is a really good win. Dropped him with a left hand that led to the submission. That stands to be a good win, but I believe he had a tainted substance in his system. And then he had his time in PFL where he didn't look too great, but he did have certain moments. Kind of mediocre go. He hurt Natan Schultz to the core a couple times, hit him with some body shots, but didn't stand up to anything great. Silva, not a very technically great fighter, but holds a lot of power in his hands. Rick got knocked out by Ricky Glenn, rushed into a shot. Nazareth Hakparast easily beat him. Jared Gordon, we actually at this fight, like a Fight Night Live, remember this knockout up against the cage, knocked him out. But yeah, I think Jesse Ronson as a dog here is what I'm going to stick with. I won't end up betting him because he's a little old and his last performance really isn't enough to nail down him for a bet. Silva is just a little wild to me. Kind of just is strong and will throw strikes as hard as he can. If this fight goes to the ground with BJJ, it could be scary for Ronson. Just because he has really bad takedown defense. Really doesn't defend takedowns at all, but will attempt to get up to his feet when he can. Silva, I just see him trying to blitz in too much, throw a heavy strike, and Ronson does have pretty good straight punches. I think he's going to meet him somewhere in the middle and find a knockout here. I believe that just the way he moves into strikes, I'm going to say KO round 1 for Jesse Ronson, but again, can't trust a bet here with him. Too old. Didn't look good striking in his last fight. but he may have his moments here. Silva, I wouldn't look at betting him either here. Is just kind of a scary matchup for him, in my opinion. But I'm going to go with the dog here in Jesse Ronson. Next fight is Julija Stoliarenko versus Chelsea Chandler. Looking at a low-level women's MMA fight here. Stoliarenko, I'm going to take the edge here for her. I think that she's actually faced some UFC caliber fighters. I don't think Chelsea Chandler in Invicta has really found that. Got down to the ground with a couple of these girls who don't know how to stop her getting into mount. Gets a lot of easy finishes from that. She appeared to be a big girl. Her latest weigh-in was 145. This is a catch weight up at down to 140 for her, but up to 140 for Stoliarenko, which Stoliarenko's actually had a hard time with weight cuts in the past. She passed out during one. Not the best UFC run. Just broke Jessica Rose Clark's arm. Has taken other losses and looked sometimes a step behind in fights. Kind of slows down a little bit, in my opinion. But I think she is fast twitch in the beginning round. I do think she'll be the better striker here. Chelsea Chandler seems to have a good left hand. That's about all she has on the feet. Loves to clinch up and try to use body lock takedowns. But I like the double legs of Stoliarenko a little bit better. She actually uses double legs. You don't really see that too much in women's MMA. Hard to say if this one will be done by submission. Stoliarenko is kind of a submission or bust girl, but Chandler, on their hand, mostly gets it done by submission. I'm going to go ahead and take a chance on Stoliarenko finding possibly that armbar or that submission. I just think there's a good chance here that Chandler hasn't faced the opponent of a grappler, even with her, and I think on the feet she may be challenged, and I got to stick with the UFC experience. But then again, the fight isn't the biggest deal to me. These are two people I don't look to bet on or, place too much emphasis on. Okay, for the next fight, we have Brendan Allen versus Krzysztof Jotko. Looking at Brendan Allen, who came off of a questionable victory, and Krzysztof Jotko, who came up with I think this might have been an upset. No, he was the favorite. Beating Gerald Meerschaert a while ago. So what's the pick? Yeah,
I like Jotko here to win a decision. That was when Gerald was I think he was on a 3-fight win streak. But anyways, I like Jotko here to piece Allen apart for 3 rounds. I really like Jotko. He's improved. You can see that in his last 2 fights. He's looked really good. And Brandon Allen, his last one didn't really seem that good. And even the fight before that against Sam Alvey, he didn't look that good in the first round before he finished Alvey in the second. Yeah, so I'll go with Jotko.
He's a very hit-or-miss fighter, Brendan Allen. If you're looking at his last Jacob Malkoun fight, he kind of tried to go all out for the knockout of the feet at times and was punching a lot of air. And then had some really poor fight IQ and takedown defense. There's multiple times I remember Malkoun running him across the cage and Allen getting taken down, and bad sweeps and reversals that gave up position. And he's still kind of lacking that overall fight IQ. Came up a win against Sam Alvey, which doesn't, in my opinion, mean a ton. Got knocked out by Chris Curtis. Winning against Puniata Soriano. I mean, he does have some credible wins, but what I really like about Jotko's game is that he's very, I'd say, somewhat intelligent with his game, doesn't rush in, really isn't known as a power puncher or a finisher at all. This guy wins everything by decision. And I think that in this fight, at range, he could win this, and I think also he might implement some grappling to slow down Allen and hold top position. He took down...
and if it goes to the mat, I could just see Brandon Allen trying to pull some crazy guillotine and just laying on his back for the rest of the round.
Right.
So I like that for Jotko.
And in the Gerald Meerschaert fight, there was a couple times Jotko got him to the ground and stayed safe with Gerald Meerschaert. I think that if he stays safe with Gerald Meerschaert, he can with Brendan Allen. I feel like in terms of betting, just betting him by decision is like an easy like plus 200 for people to try. It's mainly his route to victory in all of his fights, and again, his power in his hands isn't that great. So, yeah. Anything else on this fight?
Yeah, I'll be betting Jotko straight here.
All right, Jotko by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Randy Costa versus Guido Cannetti. I guess Randy Costa coming off 2 losses, but also against some competitive fighters in that division. Tony Kelly's no longer there, but in my opinion, is still a pretty decent fighter. Guido Cannetti coming off a win against Chris Matinho, but overall has been getting old, not on the hottest streak. So what's the pick?
Cannetti's 42 years old now, so I'm going Randy Costa by first round knockout.
Yeah, Randy Costa, a perfect example of a guy who's a great hammer but a horrible nail. He's really good at going forward, delivering hand speed, like high volume shots on people, but really struggles with pressure in his own face. I really like his height advantage here. He does well against smaller fighters, and in his last fight against Tony Kelly was just a lot bigger than him. Put the pressure in his face, slowed him down with clinch work and grappling, and Randy didn't really know how to pace the fight. And
he just gasses in the first round. That seems to be his problem.
He cuts a lot of weight too. I'm pretty sure he's very, very low body fat. In that second round of that fight, he kind of had some slow striking, and you could kind of tell Tony Kelly was going to easily win.
If you look at his all of his wins are by first round knockout, and then all of his losses are by second round knockout.
It's pretty much tells you how to bet the dude. It may be worth trying a first round KO prop. Personally, I don't trust Randy Costa anymore.
Yeah, I'm staying away from this one betting wise.
Guido Cannetti, in terms of his game, I mean, at this point in his career, he's kind of just tries to stay at range and throw a couple power punches. He gets into wars occasionally. Got Chris Matinho out. Lost in decision to Amanda Martinez. Got knocked out by Begir Ildana. He's just kind of a tough person to get behind here. It just feels like a layup for Randy Costa. But then again, I wouldn't trust the guy with my money to deliver on that. So, yeah. Randy Costa, first round knockout. I think that's the most value in this fight as well.
Yes, sir.
Next fight of the night we have is Mike Davis versus Viacheslav Borshchev. Very tough fight to predict here. If you're looking at Viacheslav Borshchev in his last fight, completely out-grappled by Mark Casey. Had a hard time getting him off his hips, but Mark Casey also has been wrestling more in his recent fights. Mark took care of Damir Hadzovic pretty easily, but also that guy has no grappling, so it's kind of hard to say for sure. Borshchev, though, great hands. His boxing is pretty unbelievable. Got a knockout in the Contender Series, his liver shot win. What I really like about Borshchev is how he uses his hands. He protects his body and his head really well from strikes. He's got a nice high guard, keeps his arms tight to his body, so strikes really don't make it through. But obviously his biggest concern is that grappling defense. If you watch his Contender Series fight, Chris Duncan could get his hands around his hips multiple times and just flip him over. When people go on for the double leg on him for the defense, he just, instead of really burrowing for underhooks, he kind of just leans over their torso, gives his hips up, and gets taken down really easily. I actually thought during the Mark Casey fight he showed moments of getting away from the takedowns and defending the takedowns, but Mark's pace and pressure was really hard for him to get away from. Mike Davis, if you haven't seen this guy's Contender Series fight with Sodiq Yusuff, that first round in that fight is extremely entertaining. It's totally worth watching. Just came off a win against Mason Jones a while ago. dealt a lot of damage to Mason Jones. This guy's got phenomenal hand speed. If I had to draw a UFC comparison, I'd say it's very similar to Michael Johnson. He's got that flash hand speed on people, and actually has some other attributes in his kicking game that can really hurt people. He really doesn't defend that the lead leg kick too well. Even if you watch that Yusuff fight, he takes a lot of lead leg kicks. I don't like that about his game. Maybe he's fixed more of that since then, but at 155, I also think he slows down a little bit more, which is a scare. And in this fight, I don't know if he's going to be able to implement his grappling as well. We are in a small cage, and that is a scare for Borshchev here when it comes to possible grappling. I'm going to take a chance on another underdog here with Borshchev. I mean, maybe he's going to fool me again because he got completely out-grappled and I picked him in the last fight. I do enjoy watching this guy fight, but it's really the question if Mike Davis can hold him down all that time without getting tired as well. And he's gotten caught on the feet a lot. He got hit by Mason Jones a lot. Mason Jones struggled to hit Ludwig Klein most recently. I think Borshchev is just defensive striking and his ability to find the target with his left hand is scary for fighters. And hopefully he can use his defensive footwork and improve grappling defense, hopefully, to take out Mike Davis here. But this is a fight worth watching. Turn on your TVs for this one because it's going to be a good one. Okay, for the next fight, we have Sodiq Yusuff versus Don Shainis. Or Shainis. Yeah. In this one, feels like a layup for Yusuff. Is way bigger fighter. At 145, Yusuff just is a big guy. Also has great cardio, good power. And Shainis, most recently, I think, was at 145, but he's really short for this division, and I think he's going to struggle in this matchup. Sodiq Yusuff feels like the layup here. What do you think?
Yes, Yusuff was supposed to be fighting a couple weeks ago, but I think Giga pulled out, and Shainis is coming in on short notice here. So tough matchup for him. Yeah, so I like Yusuff here as well.
Yeah, Yusuff has shown a decent grappling defense, cardio. And I was watching Don Shainis's highlights, and he's really similar to AJ Fletcher. The dude's got really short arms. Mostly just uses hooks when he's even getting close to range. And his main attributes is wrestling. He really struggles to hold some people down that are bigger than him too. I think most people on his record, you might want to double check this, but most people on his record are pretty crappy in terms of records. Like the Bryce Picard guy, I think he was 9-7, and just truly doesn't have the best record. He's also got a win over the legendary Jay Ellis, 104.
Yep.
But I think this is a knockout fight. Sodiq's got really good power, and I think that Don won't be able to hold up to that power, especially on short notice, like you said. So, Sodiq Yusuff by knockout. You like round one?
Yes, I do.
All right. Okay, next fight we have is Raoni Barcelos versus Trevin Jones. We're looking at Raoni Barcelos, who came into this fight down a loss versus Victor Henry. Actually, I thought that was a good scrap, even though Victor Henry was a step ahead. Start of the round, Barcelos seemed really far ahead until Victor Henry started to get some punishing shots on him. Very good footwork from Victor Henry. And he faced a little bit older of Barcelos, in my opinion. Barcelos a little bit past his prime right now. Looks to be slowing down a little bit. Also lost to Timur Valiev, but also a very good opponent to face off against. But he's had a good run with the UFC. He's a very talented bantamweight, and he's also has a very high fight IQ, in my opinion. Loves to trade. Is willing to get in exchanges with guys and try to win them at the last punch. You always love to see that with a fighter. But this is a scary fight for him. Trevin Jones he's a very underrated flyweight for what his record says. 13-8 doesn't really illustrate how good a fighter this guy is. Most recently lost to Basharat, where he was just kind of a step behind in the striking. Kakramanov was able to get the late guillotine on him. But again, flash knockout power. Mario Batista flatlined him pretty good with the uppercut. I guess he didn't flatline him, but he put him down to strikes to finish. And that's a scare here for Barcelos, so I can't see myself betting on Barcelos, but I will pick him here to win. And I'll take him by decision. I just think Trevin Jones holds that touch of death that, it could touch Barcelos, especially at his older age here. And it's a little bit harder to pick him. He also can just get caught in these battles, Barcelos, and if he's trading shots with Jones, it may be a problem. I will say Jones has a hard time going first in fights. He seems to be the counter puncher, the guy going second, and that could get him behind on the scorecards here. So I have a hard time seeing Barcelos really knocking him out here. But again, flash knockout power for Jones. I'll stick with the experience with Barcelos here. I'll take him by decision. But again, another good scrap here. The next fight we have is John Castaneda versus Daniel Santos. Castaneda looks good most recently in his fights. Beat Miles Johns, took out Eddie Wineland, lost to Nathaniel Wood, but even I thought in that performance he put on a good fight, good scrap against a good fighter. He's coming in here, he's going to be slightly smaller, I believe he's smaller by an inch, but should hold a grappling advantage here. Daniel Santos loves to spin, and use a lot of wild techniques, loves to use his elbows. On his UFC debut, he faced Julio Arce. Julio Arce really outstruck him for 3 rounds, but Santos still honestly had his moments. And what's scary about this fight for Castaneda, I will pick him here, but it's in a small cage, and I think Santos has the flash knockout power, and I think in that big cage that you're stalking Arce, it's kind of hard for him to keep up with the footwork and the movement of striking. I think in this smaller cage, it could be a little bit scarier for Castaneda to lock him down to one area and keep his feet moving. But I do like the forward pressure Castaneda brings. I think he will find a couple takedowns on Santos. And like I said, with his ability to go with Nathaniel Wood toe-to-toe for a couple rounds, he did get beaten, but still showed good moments there. I'm going to take Castaneda by decision. But again, not something I really approach putting this guy in a parlay or anything, just because we don't really know the full ability of Daniel Santos. And just like we've thought with that Trevin Jones fight, this guy's got flash knockout power, crazy spinning techniques, and if he hits Castaneda, spinning elbow, roundhouse kick, something crazy, spinning heel kick, it could be, flash KO. So I'll take Castaneda to get the grappling and having measured distance striking, but beware. Castaneda by decision. Okay, for the next fight we have is Randy Brown versus Francisco Trinaldo. Randy Brown coming off a win versus Chaos Williams, and also off the same card, Francisco Trinaldo beating Danny Roberts pretty handily. So, what do you like here in this fight?
Yeah, I like, the thing that stands out here is Randy Brown's length. He uses that very well to his advantage. He's a 8-inch reach advantage, and I like him to pick him apart here, and maybe find a club and sub.
Yeah, I like the thoughts of a club and sub here. I would say in round 2. Yeah, if you don't know the numbers are Randy Brown is 6'3", Trinaldo's 5'9", 78-inch reach for Brown, and a 70-inch reach for Trinaldo. Trinaldo obviously shouldn't be underestimated. He was underestimated by the odds makers in his last fight. He wasn't an underdog, but it was a pick'em, and he was clearly the better fighter. But in my opinion, if Randy Brown fought Danny Roberts would be in the hospital after that fight. And Randy Brown loves using front kicks up to the face, down the middle. Used it against Jared Gooden. Used it against Chaos Williams. He seems to be getting a little slicker with his striking. Francisco is just getting older, even though he hasn't showed to slow down. I think he at some point is going to hit that wall. And I think I think he might take him down and submit him or club and sub. I think either of these two are routes to victory for Randy. And if Randy Brown loses this, he, in my opinion, shouldn't be fighting in the UFC. I mean, you have old man in front of you. Do you like a round for the submission? I'm thinking 2.
Yeah, I like 2.
Yeah, Randy Brown, club and sub, or Randy Brown submission round 2. Okay, for the main event, we have Mackenzie Dern versus Xiaonan. This matchup, looking at an obvious striker versus grappler matchup, it feels like this one should be Mackenzie Dern's fight, but we'll see. You agree with that?
Yeah, stylistically, she matches up very well against Jan, who has very suspect takedown defense, and saw Carla Esparza just be able to take her down with ease and ground and pound her. So I think Dern will be able to take her down and find a submission. And I'm usually the one to fade Dern. I did in her last fight, and I thought she lost that fight as well against
She certainly lost that last fight. She won, or Tisha Torres won rounds 1 and 3. It felt pretty obvious, but the crowd is always behind Dern, and the commentators are also very biased towards Dern. But in round 2, she had Tisha tangled up. I think she also struggled to get Marina Rodriguez to the ground because of the height difference. A lot of the taller fighters can defend takedowns. Sometimes against a smaller fighter, they can't get their hips controlled. And overall, I think that her ground game is just going to be so much better. I see a submission. I'm going to say in round 1. Yan Xiaonan, like you said in that Carla Esparza fight, she just got held down, crucifixed. Just didn't seem like she really knew what she was doing, but also Carla's a good wrestler. And the biggest question is if Dern can really just get her to the ground. She struggled with takedowns before. Stand-up wise, Jan should be pretty far ahead. She came off a debatable decision with Marina Rodriguez. It was a really close second round in that fight that decided it all.
Yeah, very close fight.
I watched some of her Claudia Diadela fight, and she got taken down multiple times in that one. I just think as soon as it hits the ground, if she gets on her back, I think Dern's going to have her number. If it's going to be the armbar, it's going to be something, I don't expect it to take long once it gets there. It's just a question if it does. So I think I like Dern here, and I just like maybe a prop bet for her by submission.
Yeah, I'd like to see what that line is at. She's straight up at minus 225 right now. So I'd like to see what that submission prop.
It's going to get hammered as soon as it comes out, so just so I'd get that early if you want it. If you're if you saw the Brian Ortega versus Yair Rodriguez submission odds, they completely flipped so fast. It was like plus 400 something for Brian by sub, and it went to like plus 200. So these odds flip real fast on the submission artists, so just watch that. But yeah, Dern submission round 1. Okay, those are the full card picks for Dern versus Jan. Stay tuned Thursday for that UFC bets video. Let's make it 4 weeks in a row positive. Let's get those units. And
yes, sir.
Stay tuned to the Instagram for all the picks early, or those bets early. And leave a like, a comment, any bets you like, subscribe, and anything else from you?
That'll do it.
That'll do it. All right, y'all.
Peace.
Peace.